Hey guys, it's Kirsten and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing my breastfeeding and pumping routine. I'll be sharing a bit about my journey with breastfeeding and my milk supply, my breastfeeding essentials, as well as some tips for any of you first-time mamas who are planning to breastfeed. So without further ado, let's jump right in. These are all of my breastfeeding essentials. For feeding, these are my 4 must-haves. So obviously my nursing pillow, nursing bra, which I would wear. This is the Mom Cozy brand, and I believe it was 22 Canadian dollars off Amazon. This one's actually a nursing and pumping bra because there's a hole for the pump to go in here, and then there's obviously the zipper that you can use to hold it on while you pump. My favorite burp cloth. If anyone is looking for an amazing brand, I would definitely recommend the Copper Pearl ones. They are the best burp cloths that I've ever come across in both quality and looks. They are the perfect length, so absorbent. I'm telling you, she will barf on it and like I will not be able to find what spot she barfed in because it like soaks all of it up. And then my holy grail product, the Haka. These products here are all the other various things that you will need if you are breastfeeding, and that is nursing pads, prenatal vitamins, which they recommend you should still continue to take for as long as you breastfeed. This is vitamin D for Kyla because all breastfed babies need vitamin D. Breast milk, while it is the most nutritious thing that you can give your baby, it likely will not give your baby the amount of vitamin D that they require. If babies do have a lack of vitamin D, it can cause rickets, which is a softening and weakening of their bones. I've tried the baby D drops here, and then I've tried this D Visol by Enfamil. I've come to prefer this one, however, because you literally just need 1 or 2 droplets versus you need to use a syringe with this liquid. This is my nipple butter for the odd times where I do feel like my nipples need a little TLC. And then these are my favorite milk storage bags. I've literally tried almost every brand under the sun. If you're looking for the best quality for the most affordable price, I would definitely go with the Lazanol brand. If you're willing to splurge, I believe about like $1 or 50 cents more, then the Medela ones are the best quality that I have ever tried. They are much thicker, I find, and sturdy. These Philips Avent ones, I believe, are the same price as the Medela ones, but I would not recommend them. They're much thinner, and like you have to tear them up here and pour the milk in, and it's just like so tricky because it's just such a large floppy piece of plastic here, and it's just annoying. Next up, I will just discuss a bit about my milk supply and just my experience with breastfeeding to this point. Right after Kyla was born, she latched right away, and she's always had a great suckle. There was no problem with that side of things. There was more so just a problem with me and my lack of colostrum. In my last trimester, I was actually leaking colostrum left, right, and center, and I actually almost completely dried up after my C-section. It was very frustrating. I had nurses coming into my room every 3 hours to try to help me with hand expressing my milk, and that was just honestly super painful, and it was defeating because after like, you know, half an hour of trying, I would get maybe like a drop or 2 if I was lucky. Same thing with using an electric pump. The nurses had brought one in and suggested that I basically try to mock feed Kyla first, so I get her on to practice her latch and her suckling. After that, you know, try hand expressing or pumping for 30 minutes on each boob, and then just feed her whatever colostrum I can get out of there, but it wasn't enough. So I had to actually supplement Kyla with formula for about the first 7 days of her life. Once I got out of the hospital, my parents rented me the same exact pump that I was using there from, I believe it was the Rexall pharmacy. And I used that just to try to stimulate my milk to come in. For anyone who doesn't know, there are 3 stages of breast milk. There is colostrum, then there's transitional milk, and then there's mature milk. And there are 2 types of mature milk. There's fore milk, which is more watery, translucent, and it's very sweet. And then there's the hind milk, which is the white, creamy milk that has a higher fat content with more of the nutrients that your baby needs. My colostrum came in at 4 days postpartum. My transitional milk was about 7 days postpartum. They say that transitional milk lasts for 2 weeks on average, and then after that is when your mature milk kicks in. By the time Kyla was 2 weeks old, and when we went to take her into the health unit for her little 2-week checkup, I was producing so much milk that I was just spraying left, right, and center, and it was even coming out of this spot in my armpit, which it still is. I'll insert a video here so you guys can see. At that appointment, a lactation consultant had come in just to check on us, and they asked us to feed in front of her just so she could try to offer any more help that she could. And right as I went to whip my boob out, it literally started like high pressure spraying like a Nerf water gun. And she was like, oh my. I was so embarrassed, but she told me that it is actually so normal. Apparently I was just lucky enough to get what is called an overactive letdown and an overactive supply. Super ironic. I basically went from having no milk at all to producing so much that it is backed up into my armpits. Due to this overactive letdown and supply, while I'm feeding Kyla on one side, I was having so much milk leak out of my other breast. So she suggested that I do a few things. One is to slow down the letdown. You can actually start feeding your baby on a bit of recline backwards. And then another thing that I could do is get a haka just to collect all that milk that would have gone to waste otherwise. A haka is just a silicone breast pump. I actually have two kinds. These ones are both the 4-ounce size. You just squeeze it like this, you place it on your boob, let go, and it'll suction to you and it will collect all the milk that will come out. So ever since she recommended that, I have been using the haka on the opposite breast that Kyla is not on during every single feed since that day. And because of that, I have managed to collect over 300 4-ounce bags of breast milk in under 2.5 months. But I didn't use that electric pump past the first week because it was just so exhausting. By the time you do your mock feeding and then your 30 minutes of pumping on each side and clean all the parts, that's like an hour 45-minute ordeal, and I would be getting little to no time to actually sleep. So I quit on that after my milk had fully come in by 7 days postpartum, and since then I have only ever used my haka. This is what our deep freeze looks like. It's pretty much from bottom to top all breast milk. I believe I have on average about 20 4-ounce bags in every large Ziploc, and we're on large Ziploc number 19. So they range all the way from January into mid-March because that's when I ran out of room and my dad made me stop storing and to start pumping and dumping. But I just thought I'd show you guys that I wasn't kidding. I've literally filled the deep freeze full of breast milk. Now I'll just jump into my breastfeeding routine. Okay, so Kyla just woke up and she's fussing, so that means it's feeding time. So first step of our feeding routine is just to change her diaper so she's nice and alert for her feed. So I'm gonna go ahead and change her little diaper and then we'll be right back. Are you hungry, baby? So her diaper is changed now, and I went ahead and got my burp cloth as well as my water bottle and the haka, so we are all ready to go for feeding time. I just hit enter on my feeding tracker, so it's officially timing. This is the position that I do with Kyla now that she's a little bit bigger and more active. It's just do the cross cradle, which has her in this kind of diagonal position on my lap, and she'll latch on, and then it'll give me space to use the haka on this boob. Wearing my nursing and pumping bra is great for using the haka because sometimes if there's any milk on like the rim of the haka, then it might lose suction and fall off your boobs. So with this bra, it just prevents it from being able to fall, and I can just like re-squeeze it and suction it. But as you can see, it is slowly filling here. Okay, let's switch boo-boos.
Yeah, she's staring again. Hey, yo.
You're not interested? I tried to offer her the second boob, but she was giving me all the cues that she is full. So she's not hungry. She had enough off that first boob. So yeah, we're pretty much done. I'm just gonna burp her, and they say it's good to keep them upright for 30 minutes after you feed just to help prevent them from getting gas pains. So I'm just gonna do that. But yeah, today was just one of those days where she was full after just 5 minutes and 41 seconds. So we are done. I'm just leaving the haka on my boob to finish draining this one, just to try to relieve some of the engorgement that I have, hey? Since I have an overactive letdown and overactive milk supply, Kyla will actually get the same amount of milk that another baby may get in a 40-minute feeding session in just 10 to 15 minutes, or in cases like today, about 5 minutes. Listen to your baby. They will give you those cues. Whenever she's hungry, she'll let me know by crying. Usually that's every 3.5 hours. She'll start to get fussy and her hands will be in fists. Those are some of the hunger cues that you can look for. I'll list some of the other ones up here just so you guys know. When Kyla's full, I'll notice that her palms will actually relax and she'll turn away from the boob and she just will lose interest and she will even sometimes start fussing if I try too long to get her back on. I'll leave some of the other full cues over here just again so you guys know. But yeah, I wouldn't really worry too much about all those recommendations like feeding your baby 15 to 20 minutes on each one and every 3 hours, because as long as you're listening to your baby's cues, feeding them when they're hungry and taking them off when they're full, and as long as they're gaining healthy weight, there's really nothing to worry about. Kyla has doubled her birth weight. She's just over 12 pounds now. She's extra chunky monkey, even though she's only feeding for like 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time. Just wanted to show you guys that this time I did collect just over 3 ounces of breast milk. It comes with a stopper and that base, so it's pretty difficult for it to be tipped over. Lastly, I'll talk about my tips for breastfeeding. My biggest advice to everyone out there, if you are thinking about getting a breast pump, I would definitely recommend doing what I did and try renting one first, just so you can see how you like that specific pump, and also to give you a gauge of how often you're going to be needing it. Because if you are like me, I thought I was going to need it like long term, but I never actually ended up needing it after the first week to help my milk come in. My next tip is, if you do have a sleepy baby like Kyla is, do what I've done and change them first before you feed them, and then just feed them while they're in an undershirt or even skin to skin, because if they are nice and cozy and they're little sleepers, then they might just fall back asleep. And then also the blowing on their hair or tickling their toes to keep them awake. My next tip is to use a feeding tracker to track which boob you're starting on each time and how long your baby's feeding, so it'll give you a general idea of their trends. I use the Baby Plus app right here. It's a free app and it has a lot of different tools on here. You can track their diapers, so how many soiled versus wet diapers, as well as feeding. Just hit the left or right button and it'll start timing how long they're on each breast for. And you can also review your history. My next tip is to use a breastfeeding pillow, at least for the first few weeks, because like I mentioned, it'll just allow you to focus on your baby's latch and just getting down the whole technique of breastfeeding first. And that is it for my breastfeeding and pumping routine video. I hope some of this information was helpful for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell button beside to get a notification every time I post a new video. Also, leave a comment down below for any video recommendations that you guys want to see. We'll see you guys next time.